Bitcoiners are losing their absolute minds on my Twitter right now because I put up a little case study of someone that I met here in Dubai. And while I'm sitting there, he told me that he has $4 million in Bitcoin in cold storage. And his life was shit because he's a technical something, a programmer or a coder or something like that. And he was spending 80 to 100 hours a week working a job. He's got a young family, he's got a wife, got a child, and he's got a young family. And he's making roughly 15,000 US dollars. And of course, all the broke Bitcoiners that are out there, $1,000 net worthers, started losing their minds, saying, "How can $15,000 not be enough money?" Etc., etc. Of course, imparting judgment as usual. And this is why this channel is important, because this channel, I've realized, bridges. My job here is to bridge the gap between TradFi, what my boys do, basically. Even though I technically never worked in TradFi, I kind of understand how the game works because I've been an investor in TradFi for so long. Bridge this world, the TradFi world. I don't really fit in anywhere. That's what I've realized. I don't fit in with the traditional Bitcoiner, right? I've realized that. I don't, and I find it insulting actually when somebody who is, broke basically starts talking about their high moral status and values and hard money values when they're fucking broke. Excuse my language. That's kind of insulting to me. I find that extremely insulting. And I don't know why. It's a condition that I've had for a long time, and I can't explain it to anyone. I find it repulsive. I find it very toxic when someone who doesn't have riches, who doesn't have wealth, who is not a millionaire, thinks that they're on a higher plateau and a higher standard because they believe in so-called freedom, right? How free are you if you have zero point 0.2 Bitcoin and you can't afford to take care of your family and give them the most important thing, which is the time, right? Like you can't afford to give them the time. You can't afford to go on to live where you want to live. You can't afford to give your children the quality of life they deserve. At the end of the day, we can all talk about, I understand why they want to tear down this fiat game because they're fucking losers in it, right? That's really what it is. So I don't care whether they're a Bitcoiner or not. I'm not talking about Bitcoiners here. I'm not talking about non-Bitcoiners here, like people that are into fiat. I just find it insulting. I don't know what it is. It's something that I haven't managed to explain yet. And it just feels repulsive to me when I see someone that's absolutely dirtbag broke and who is trying to impart their wisdom on values. You're fucking broke. How do you have time for wisdom and values when you're broke? When you can't, somebody else can tell you to shut the fuck up and sit down, and you have to shut the fuck up and sit down. I don't care what your values are. I don't care how morally superior you think you are. And the fact that you care about it is quite insulting to me. So anyway, rant over. The tweet that I put out was that this gentleman that I met here in Dubai, who has $4 million Bitcoin in cold storage, done extremely well to hodl. He's works an 80 to 100 hour week in the tech sector, making $15,000 a month. I'm reading the tweet right now. By the way, if you haven't followed me on Twitter, on X, you need to come and follow me there, because that's where my initial ideas go immediately. And of course, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, help me subscribe, help me share, subscribe and help me share this message, because this is the goal here. The goal here is to get people to one Bitcoin. The goal is to bridge the gap between TradFi and what's coming for Bitcoin, like this innovation. This gentleman has gone from, an 80 to 100 hour work week, making $15,000 a month, to an income this month of $41,845 because of one conversation. And that's what I want to walk through here, right? So, his family literally, by the way, he's hodled his stack for a long time. He doesn't need to sell because he's working an 80 to 100-hour work week, but he's a multi-millionaire working this work week, living in Dubai with a young family, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do you optimize this more when you're at the point and your wife's going, wait a second, we are multi-millionaires. How come we don't have a home? How come we don't have a house? How come we don't live in XYZ condition? How come we don't have the best school for our children? Whatever it is, I don't know what it is, right? Whatever it is. So there's one conversation later. I introduced him to get a broker account at Charles Schwab and an OTC desk here. Charles Schwab, been using them forever personally. Charles Schwab and Interactive Brokers. And an OTC desk. And what he did was he moved $400,000 of his cold storage Bitcoin, 10%, right? 4,400,000, 10%, into MSTY. And if you don't understand, this video is not really about going to explain what MSTY is. If you want to understand that, go watch my video on income from Bitcoin. I think it's like 3 videos ago. Something like that. And that really like explains the walkthrough of what MSTY is. But MSTY is basically an income fund, right? It's designed to give you an income. So he got into MSTY, you know, in this little downflow that we've had over the last month or so at $19.90 a share. So he has 20,100 shares, right? So let's look at the reality of what he has now. He has $3.6 million in Bitcoin, right? Sitting in cold storage, hardcore Bitcoin cold storage, right? And he has 20,100 shares or $400,000 at that market value, at that share price in MSTY. Well, yesterday, this is Saturday, yesterday, he had $26,845 dropped into his. I'm not going to talk about taxes. There's withholding taxes, all this other stuff. That's a personal thing, right? But he's just had $26,845 dropped into his account after yesterday's dividend, right? So his income has just gone from $15,000 a month and an 80 to 100-hour work week to a total this month of $41,845 gross of taxes. And by the way, that 10%, this is just with 10% put into a growth fund, right? Or rather an income fund. That 10% is going to grow faster than the benchmark, the wet dream of assets, which is the NASDAQ. That 10% is going to grow faster than that. In fact, for the last like 6 to 8 months, MSTY has been outpacing Bitcoin. Right, so he doesn't have any MSTR. He's just using this for income. It's still growing faster than the previous benchmark asset to Bitcoin. It's only 10% of his portfolio, and yet now his family has an income gone in 1 month using the same assets that he has. By the way, not sold it, right? He's still in the asset. He's still in the underlying asset trade. Still in the underlying macro trade. And he's now gone from an income of $15,000 a month to $41,845 this month, right? And again, that 10% that he's taken out, the sacrilegious thing of converting 10% Bitcoin into an income fund is still in Bitcoin, right? It's generating you, it's going to grow faster than the benchmark index of the NASDAQ. And it will probably grow at 30 to 40% of MSTR's CAGR. Right? If he doesn't drip it, right? The drip is dividend reinvestment plan, right? He doesn't have to pull out the whole dividend, right? So now, do you think at this point he has a higher chance of hodling the other $3.6 million than he did before, working an 80 to 100-hour work week to make $15,000 a month? I think so. Right? This is the use case of income funds. This is why the income fund market is $300 trillion. This is why Michael Saylor wants 1% of the income fund market, right? And I'm having so many of these conversations with people that are going, you know, I've done the right thing. I've hodled my Bitcoin. Everything's great. But why the fuck am I still poor? And of course, they're not poor, but they don't know how to generate liquidity and generate income from the asset. And this is where my world comes into this, right? Because this is only going to grow. You think this is just going to stop now? Like when people realize that MSTY basically turns your Bitcoin into real estate, right? And you can start making a cash flow from it based on the implied volatility of the asset. And again, if you want to understand MSTY, go watch that video. But income funds are here to stay, and they're finally doing. They're going to make whoever uses income funds to generate income is going to versus selling down your Bitcoin position on a monthly basis, you are going to be a better hodler over time. It's just simple as that. You are going to have more of your wealth than someone who has to sell their Bitcoin on a monthly basis in order to live. It is as simple as that, because you are still going to be catering the underlying asset. You're still going to be growing that underlying Bitcoin, and you'll be able to hold it better. And by the way, that's $20,100, 20,100 shares today with a dividend of 134. MSTY has been paying dividends up to $4 a month, right? If we get that implied volatility back, which I believe we will once we start getting liquidity back in the markets, you're looking at this guy, making $80,000 a month in income, right? Gross, $80,000 a month in income from his MSTY position. Now, at that point, he might say, okay, I only want to pull out 20,000 because I still have my job. I'm taking that a little bit more relaxed now. I only want to pull out 20,000. So with the other 60,000, I'm going to drip it back into MSTY. There's so much. The thing that it gives you is optionality. That's why income is important. Income gives you optionality, and it allows you to sit through the other trade without having to sell it, without having to liquidate, without having to do these things. So income is extremely important. It's astounding to me how many Bitcoiners are refusing to understand how TradFi works and then shitting on DeFi when literally DeFi is like, the bastard child of Bitcoin and TradFi, right? It's like TradFi is here. There are these tools that allow you to generate income from the volatility that Michael Saylor is allowing you to generate through or creating for you. This is what MSTR is. MSTR, the product of MSTR, is volatility. They are selling volatility to income funds, to other people, to convertible debt holders, to all these other insurance companies that want to buy convertible debt. They are selling that volatility to them to allow them to speculate on that and generate premiums on it. This is what the purpose of MSTR is, and it's happening right now. And this guy has gone from one conversation, right, a couple conversations, has gone from $4 million of Bitcoin in cold storage, right, struggling to work an 80 to 100-hour work week, making $15,000 a month, and his wife nagging him saying we're multimillionaires but we look fucking broke, which Bitcoiners are apparently proud of. To now, this month, his income has gone up to $41,845 a month. And he can now have a bunch of optionality that he didn't have last month. And he can absolutely hodl tight on that $3.6 million in cold storage Bitcoin. And that 400,000 that's been pivoted to MSTY will grow I believe, somewhere between the Nasdaq's CAGR and 30 to 40% of MSTR. I think that's where MSTY's CAGR will be. Now, the reason why I wanted to record this video is because this is an important conversation of understanding how to be a better hodler, right? British HODL. But how do you actually become a better hodler? If I didn't have businesses, if I didn't have income vehicles, income strategies, et cetera, I would have had to sell down my position, right? But because I do have these other optionalities, I can think about how to buy more Bitcoin and how to buy more MSTR. And that, in my opinion, makes me a better hodler, which is why I have always said this right from the start. I think now that BlackRock boys are in the building, they are going to come. And if you are a Bitcoin hodler that's sitting there with your cold storage stuck cleanly up your asshole, and you think you're great, they are going to take it from you. We are going to figure out how to take your Bitcoin and leave you with less Bitcoin than you have today. Why? Because there'll be incentives. There'll be all these things, and we'll catch you with one of them. I guarantee you that. We've done this over and over again with every asset, and we will do it again with Bitcoin. That's why I want people to become better hodlers. I don't care what strategy you use, but you've got to become better hodlers, and exploring these strategies is the start of it, so you can figure out, okay, how do I actually protect the Bitcoin that I have for the long term and also live a good life? It's like in Bitcoin, everyone thinks that the shitter the life you live, Not everyone, by the way, but the shitter the life you live, the more sort of virtuous you are. And like I said at the beginning, that's fucking insulting to me. And the thankful thing is that the new market that's coming into Bitcoin, it's also insulting to them. They want to figure out how to live a good life, as well as stack Bitcoin, as well as give your children the best education, as well as live in the house of your dreams, as well as drive the car of your dreams, as well as take the holidays you want and all this other stuff. And all of that's coming to Bitcoin. In fact, it's here. So you've got to smarten up. You've got to start learning about this. That's why I want you to subscribe to the channel. And of course, there's other income funds. Bitwise has just released an income fund as well, a slew of them, right? And so I want to spend some time studying them and then compare these ones, because you don't just get into one. How this works is you figure out which one's serving your needs the best, and then you pivot from one to the other as things change, right? And new things happen. So subscribe to the channel, because that's what I want to talk about. And again, stop listening to these $1,000 net worthers that are higher than thou at every turn, right? These virtuous gold bug Bitcoiners that don't understand how the game works, because they're not in the game, right? They literally say it themselves. They're not in the game. They're trying to escape the game. I don't give a shit about any of that. Or you're going to learn how to master the game of money. And the way, like, for example, to a lot of these people, debt is bad. To people like me and the people that come from my world, debt is a tool. That's it, right? So there's difference in mindset, and that's some of the things that I think need discussing. So subscribe to the channel. But ultimately, there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.